Lagos. These are some of the options with which you can respond to us. Don't forget we have the poll on our WhatsApp status. We want to know how to serve you better. So please kindly help us complete it. All right, Rotus, what's this about licensing firms that offer foreign stocks?
Yeah, so Dayo Obisan, who he's been a private sector player in the capital markets, worked for a few investment firms. He's now the executive commissioner for operations at the Securities and Exchange Commission. So he was in an interview speaking to the media, saying that the SEC is going to license online firms that offer the opportunity to buy foreign stocks overseas. I think according to the SEC, they've seen about 400,000 Nigerians that have poured into funds, into foreign stocks through online brokerages in the last 18 months. And, it says about 70% between the ages of 18 and 40. So it's quite a number of younger Nigerians who haven't, they've pretty much shunned the local market. The SEC is saying that they want to protect investors. According to Mr. Obisan, all these Nigerians that are going into the online platforms in order to buy stocks overseas, they could possibly be exploited. And so he's saying that they need to license these firms and put protections in place. I think I said this when the SEC put out that notice 2 months ago, saying that they've seen a rising number of online brokerage firms and they want to be able to step in and regulate them. It caused this stir because these firms already have a broker through which they go through. So the online firms that are offering stocks overseas have an agreement with a brokerage firm who has a license with the SEC here in Nigeria, and another license with the SEC in the United States. So they were going through that broker, but the SEC, but there's some, they're using their platforms on social media and so on to market, their services. And the SEC is like, well, if something happens and something goes wrong, who has recourse to now get, their money back? Where do they go? So they want to individually license these firms themselves. But the argument that it creates an avenue for exploitation, I don't know about that. I don't really buy that. I mean, we're not talking about MMM here, or talking about cryptocurrencies or agri-tech investments that have their funny astronomical return. We're talking about foreign stocks, whether you're buying them in the US or UK, it's no different from buying stocks here in Nigeria. So these are companies that are producing whatever it is they do, whether it's a Tesla or McDonald's or whatever other company that you're looking at, Apple and so on and so forth. Where's the exploitation? So really, I think they're a little worried as to this. Look, you got foreign exchange rates, right? You've got the exchange rate fluctuations in the country. Funny enough, I was looking up Dayo Obisan and I found a video of him at the Lagos Business School. He was lecturing on YouTube. This was back in 2016. And the section of the video I caught when I was just listening to him talk, he was talking to the students there, and he was talking about how he built a model for a client that was looking to do some trade or something overseas. And the Excel model that he built was at an exchange rate of 197 to the dollar, which is what was the official rate back in 2016 or so via the CBN's website. Meanwhile, the parallel market rate was 323. I think at that time, Abuki FX had just come out. So he was talking to his students and saying, has anyone heard of Abuki FX? I just heard of them.
Yeah, you just heard of them?
That was in 2016. Oh, 2016. Okay. Yeah, so this was a lecture. So he now said that he almost entered trouble with that client because his model was based on a CBN exchange rate of 197. Meanwhile, the parallel market was 323. So he was like, look, I had to make up for the difference. He ran the model through a superior and they now cut it and say, wait, so what are you doing? They're gonna face a lot of losses here because the expenses that they'll be looking at are much higher based on the more realistic parallel market rate. So if you put that within context of what we're talking about here, there are people who would give their right arm to be able to get exchange rate at 3.3 right now, when it's, it's 480 or 480 something at the parallel market. So if you think of where the exchange rate has moved from 2016 till now, I mean, any Nigerian would want to preserve their purchasing power by investing in equities overseas, in the US equities and so on. So this whole talk that they want to come out now, and I mean, when we knew this was coming, I think I even said it in the show, and that they're looking to regulate them. And I talked to some in the sector saying they would regulate them. But that's what we're seeing in the SEC. So now it looks like they may have to pay more fees. They'll be under more. But I don't see much changing, because other than their own costs of doing business by having to maybe get another extra license, you're still going to see, as far as the situation is on ground in Nigeria, you're still going to see more people looking at US equities just to preserve their power and earn more money.
Yeah. All right, so Benga has a question. He's saying, is SEC not supposed to be proactive rather than reactive? The government is always on the lookout to make a buck. Licensing will come with charges. I mean, just like you explained a few seconds ago, Rotus.
Exactly. And, this is in new. Some of these companies have been around for about a couple years, a year, 2 years. So, they're coming to do this in the beginning of 2021, when some of them have been around since 2019, 2018. So, they do need to be more proactive in that when it comes to those things. But as long as inflation should be coming out this week, so prepare yourselves for another. I hear it could be another. It could inch up a little further. As long as inflation is high, as long as the exchange rate is where it is, what are you going to do? Of course, you're going to look at equities overseas. Yeah, we'll see how things go.
Thank you. We'll see how things go, and of course, I know you will review the inflation figures once they come out here on the show. Otunuga from Ajah says, or is asking, please, apart from sovereign guarantees, is there any other tangible securities with which Eurobonds issued by Nigerian government are secured?
Apart from what?
Sovereign guarantee.
Apart from sovereign guarantees, I don't know the question. Apart from sovereign guarantees, are there any other, what's the question again?
Is there any other tangible securities with which Eurobonds issued by Nigerian government are secured?
No, it's the sovereign. That's sovereign guarantee, because it's a sovereign nation that is offering these euro bonds. I think they are dollar denominated, so it's based on Nigeria's earnings from oil, where then that she uses to pay for them. In fact, I heard news that India's oil imports have fallen by about almost $40 billion or so. I read it somewhere. So, and that's our largest buyer of our crude. With what's now in India, it's a terrible situation with the COVID pandemic. So we'll have to take a look at how much oil India is getting from us, because that's one of our biggest buyer. But it's a sovereign guarantee. It's a sovereign nation. As long as our dollar receipts are coming in and Nigeria is earning FX, she will be able to pay for those euro bonds.
All right, brilliant. Thank you. D from Alausa sends a headline that thinks is worthy of, or is newsworthy. I don't know if you heard about this one, Rotus, about Elon Musk's SpaceX Starlink arriving in Nigeria and meeting NCC for permits. How have you had an opportunity to look into it?
So he wants to be able to offer, I think it's broadband internet services through the fact that SpaceX is going to be able to have satellites that should be able to provide that. Facebook has here in parts of the Lagos, you can get free Wi-Fi in certain areas based on Facebook using satellites to try to provide the online service, online access. So it could be a threat to the, but I mean, he's got a way. Elon Musk, I admire everything he does, because everything that man does is a risky venture. Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, the Boring Company, they are all highly risky ventures. So the man is a true cowboy. So my own is, the more providers of internet in Nigeria, the better. And if he is going to make the telco step up and increase their investments in cell phone towers and increasing broadband penetration, you have more kids able to do Zoom, to stay at home with all these things. You have more telemedicine facilities. So yeah, it's
SMEs, the effect on SMEs, meetings,
of
and
course,
things.
of
Rotus, let me ask you. You're saying that, I understand that with regards to if he's able to play in the market, he would hopefully inspire local players to up their game. Do we need that? Do we not have the NCC to ensure that they're giving us quality service? Because it's not just about providing internet service. Because if, for instance, Elon Musk's SpaceX is not approved in Nigeria, does it mean we'll have to suffer bad connection services until an international player or someone else comes into the market to shake up things?
Technically, MTN is an international player, right? They're a South African telco. You know, so Airtel technically is another foreign entity. I mean, and it is Airtel Africa, but I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be allowed.
No, I'm never. So I'm not talking about him being allowed. I'm talking about the NCC ensuring as a regulatory body that we get quality service, because you talk about investment in masts and things like that, which is responsible for us not getting quality internet services. Can the NCC not wade in without waiting for market forces? I know that's a wonderful, that's just allowing natural market forces to play, but can the NCC not step in? Because I'm sure a number of people would agree that network services, even phone services, have been horrible, and you wonder who is meant to be responsible for ensuring quality service.
If that was the case, then the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, would step in us more lights, right? If that was the SEC, the regulator for the capital market, would force market players to better returns to beat inflation and foreign exchange risk. If that was the case, the regulators would, so they can't do that. The only thing the regulator can do for the NCC is to ensure that the market players are not exploiting us. They want to make sure that, you know,
I feel exploited.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the only thing you can do. So they just make sure they're playing by the rules and we encourage them. But NCC is just oversight, just like all the other in all the other markets. It was like saying the CBN.
I was going to say they need to be a bit more like the CBN. No, the CBN definitely go beyond just being anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Can the CBN tell banks, hey, give Ayo and Rotus and everybody else higher interest rates now?
No, they have a way of doing these things. Well, let me take comments before we have to go. Lenin says, morning smooth. What's the point in regulating an enterprise that is being serviced by two sovereign securities regulators? It's the same as licensing an individual who is buying stocks on the Nigerian exchange. And then Yinka, okay, I want to take a few more, then you can respond to all
go
of
ahead,
them.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Yinka says, free Wi-Fi in Lagos that can't open ordinary, search engine app. Rotus continue to use us to catch crews. And then Emo from Ikeja says, I'm quite surprised local players have not gone far to improve internet connection and services. Trends point towards a future that will be hugely dependent on the internet, and yet these internet providers are still dragging their feet. Okay, so Rotus, if you're telling me that the NCC cannot step in on our behalf, so who can make us? Don't we deserve good internet services? Who can? I'm sorry. I mean, we've moved
for you to get good internet service. Insecurity has. MTN was accused of paying the Taliban in Afghanistan bribes for them to secure their towers. So you need better internet. You need more towers, more cell phone towers. Well, more cell phone towers is more for your cell phone reception. You need more broadband cables on the ground, so less right-of-way fees from the different states. You need more infrastructure. It's an infrastructure thing. Improve infrastructure, you get better internet. That's infrastructure. All right,
fantastic. Money. Okay, thank you very much, Rotus. Great conversation as always. A number of people might have questions to ask, and if you want to do this, please go onto our Smooth FM handle on Twitter and use the hashtag BusinessExpress981 so we can either take your question online or bring you on the show tomorrow morning so that other people can benefit from the response. You can also follow Rotus at RotanQuote on Twitter. You can tag him in your question, and see you tomorrow morning, same time, 6:45 a.m. here on Smooth 98.1. At 7:30, we bring you today's edition of Freshly Pressed 981. This is detailed analysis of today's national news headline stories. I have Wade and Mr. C joining me, so do tune in and join the conversation. It's Smooth 98.1. Business Express, brought to you by Thank you, Rotus. Thanks everyone for tuning in. As always, great having you join the conversation. Have a good day and join us at 7:30 for Freshly Pressed 9 on.